Thanks to our patrons, we've got the Smith & Wesson Bodyguard 2.0 for a tabletop review and field strip coming up next on GBGuns. It's been a while since I've done a Smith & Wesson, and there's a reason for that. The last time I reached out to them for a T&E gun, they had a multi-page contract they wanted me to sign in order to have the gun sent. I looked through that contract, and I could not agree to its terms. So, thanks to our patrons, and if you guys appreciate unbiased, fair reviews like this, please comment "thank you, patrons," since they funded this and they voted for it. In the cardboard box, and yes, it is still a cardboard box, although they have changed the design a little bit, we got our 2 mags, our mandated lock, and our paperwork underneath, as well as a nice high-quality chamber flag. But because I would not agree to those terms in the contract, haven't been doing any T&E Smith & Wessons for quite some time. So I hope this video and the range video and the article will give you guys a little bit better of an impression, or more true impression of the Smith & Wesson, since yes, that means that everybody who had a review that came out on launch day were people who agreed to those terms. First up, we'll take a look at the manual. So I take a look at the manual to make sure that I do things correctly, to show the YouTube overlords that a field strip is not disassembling a gun, and to get a feel for how well the company wants you to understand the firearm. This one is just your standard 4-color. However, it does go into great detail, and something that I found interesting in looking to see if I could find plus P ammunition was it has this chart here and specifically says no on 380. That's a little bit disparaging when you've got such a short barrel and already a lower powered round. I would want plus P to try to get the most out of the gun that I could, but I guess since it's charted like this with all the calibers, Smith & Wesson does not build for plus P 380s, which is kind of interesting. The images are fairly clear, the instructions are nicely done, everything is pretty clear in here. You should be able to understand quite a bit about the firearm and a little bit extra about shooting by reading this manual. Some of the shooting parts I don't necessarily agree with, but whatever gets the job done and works for you is the right way for you. Let's get this paperwork out of the way and take a look at the gun. I've been curious about this little thing, as obviously you guys have been as well. I published the press release over on GBGunsDepot.com, and I could not tell from the images just how small this thing really is. And when I grab it, my finger almost goes to the end of the barrel, and it's reminding me, because I did have an original Bodyguard, I did not like it. It's one of the only guns that I've ever sold. However, it did accomplish what it set out to do. It was a tiny, tiny pocket 380. With this 12-round magazine in it, I also get all 3 fingers on the grip, which really impresses me. Additionally, you can see it is a locked breech. So that plus a heavy spring and full grip, this should be a lot more pleasant to shoot than the old one. Plus it has real sights. You get a 10-round and a 12-round magazine. The 12-round magazine uses the little sleeve add-on type bit that we're used to seeing on Smith & Wessons. However, this one is locked in place pretty good, which is great. A lot of people don't like these things and have complained about the sleeves because there's a chance if the sleeve works its way part way up and you're in a hurry and you do a reload, that if you're not pushing hard enough and a mouse farts or something, I don't know, but somehow that prevents the magazine from inserting fully. I've never experienced that problem, but people complained about it, and Smith & Wesson seems to have done something about it. Zoom in some more. This thing is tiny. Taking a look at fit, finish, and features. We've already shown the clear. The serrations on here really do work. I'm surprised they don't continue over the top, but they've got a good cut and it's most of the slide. So even though you don't have a lot of slide to grab, pretty much anywhere where you grab is going to work, which is pretty nice. A little bit of the bevel bowl cut up front. Slide to frame fit is very tight. It's nicely done. There is no rail space. Before people go typing angry comments about that, this is a thumb digit from the trigger guard to the end of the frame. I don't know of any accessories that would fit in there unless they were specifically made for this gun, so you might as well not have a rail space and just go with it. You can see we've got some nice texturing that's not too aggressive but definitely grippy as reference points. It's the same texture that's on the front strap and back strap, and we have the flat trigger here. Since we're here, we'll do some trigger talk. My finger, as you can see, clears in here without a glove. With a glove, this might be an issue. However, if you're in a climate that requires gloved hands, you could probably get away with carrying something bigger. So I wouldn't worry about that too much. We have a safety dingus that works. The trigger does not move without it. And the manual warned against staging triggers. It's one of the shooting tip things that I thought was interesting. Maybe their warning was that if you stage a trigger, you could have accidental discharge. I can tap on this thing without it going off. So, not with this pistol, but it was an interesting consideration. And one thing that I do appreciate is you can tell it's an actual 380 magazine. See, oftentimes manufacturers will take a 9mm magazine and put a little bit of a spacer in the back of the spine to simplify things, make only one magazine tube to have to produce, because the 380 cartridge is 2mm shorter of case. This is a real 380 mag, and as a result, so like here's the equalizer. You can see this is the same setup here, but the equalizer magazine is longer, so we're not going to have interchange or the ability to toss in other mags. In fact, that equalizer has it turned on. I grabbed my CSX as well. This was a true less micro E format, I guess you could say, but this had the little sleeve thing that could slide around very easily on CSX, a pistol that could have been great, and I'm sure many people are trying to forget. Anyways, back to the little Bodyguard 380. Our texturing on the back strap goes up into the sides a bit, which is nice. Slide to frame is also very tight, and you can see our sight picture here. We have a tritium and glowy ring front sight and blacked out U-notch rear sight that should be pretty easy to grab. Plenty of daylight on either side. That'll make for quick general aiming. Be interesting to see how that does on the range. And on the right side, no controls. The magazine release, however, is reversible. Next, we'll field strip the Bodyguard 2.0 and take a look inside the gun. Field stripping the Bodyguard 2.0 is not too different from other Smith & Wessons. You will need to put some extra force getting that slide back. Mine, at least fresh out of the box, is a little bit stiff. Rotating that lever down, bring the slide forward, release the striker, and the slide comes off. Now we can take a look inside at this itty bitty little thing. It is striker fired, which is a change. As I recall, I think the original was hammer fired. And we have a dual captured recoil spring in here. Tap that down to bring that out with a tiny barrel. And we can look inside at our slide. Now, as far as I know, I believe the markings on here do confirm it. This is from their new facility after Smith & Wesson moved to a free state. I want to congratulate them on pulling that off. And wonder if it had something to do with 1 million fewer pistol production. I forget if it's between 22 and 20. Yeah, it was either 21, 22, or 22 to 23. Smith went from 1.6 million handguns to only 600,000 handguns produced, which is quite a drastic cut. Interesting shape to our chamber here. You can see it looks almost like it's leaning to the left, doesn't it? Everything seems centered once I get it on the, oh, come on, camera. Once everything's on there, it seems lined up, but the mouth sure looks like it kind of leans left a little, which I find interesting. Nice polished feed ramp and plenty of chamfering almost all the way around to help guide in an errant round. Speaking of chamber, we'll check chamber fitment. Now, unfortunately, I do not have any high-grade 380 ammunition available at the moment, so we're going to use some pre-bankruptcy Remington. Take with that what you will, but I'm going to drop this in and listen for a plunk, like that. We want to see if it rotates freely, and it does not rotate at all. That's interesting. So if I can pull it out, turn it, put it in, and then it's locked in. I wonder if that is bullet already engaging rifling. Like there's not much free bore there. I'll try a different round, but you can see that we do have full chamber support all the way around. Let me grab a different piece of ammunition. Nope, that doesn't rotate either. That's really interesting. Normally, when I do that check and I'm twisting, and this one didn't seat as deep. You see now we don't have full chamber support. I mean, that's the strongest part of the brass. It's nothing to be too concerned about, but it did not go in all the way. Let me grab another one. That one didn't go in all the way either and won't turn. So normally when you're doing that, you're feeling for burrs in the chamber. Like if I pull it out a little bit, I can turn just fine. But once it's seated, it does not want to turn at all. Almost like we're getting contact between the projectile and the rifling. Now I'm really curious. I'm going to have to go dig out some other 380 ammo and see what's going on here. All right, now with some PMC bronze. Again, didn't seat all the way and is not turning. That is alarming. We may have a bad chamber here. Be interesting to see what happens when we get to the range. If that is not a full seat and that's a bad chamber, what we'll experience is the slide not wanting to close all the way on a round in the chamber. Haven't seen that since a Taurus. Hopefully it's just a unique property of this gun. I don't know. I do not claim to be an expert, but I have reviewed over 400 handguns, so I kind of know what's normal and what's not. You saw I'm reversing the disassembly to get it all back together. In the range video, you will get absolute first shots through the gun. You'll get to see what that's like, especially with this chamber being as it is. We'll also do a full magazine +1, see how these new magazines run fully stuffed. Take it over to the What's for Dinner table to see what it eats with 10 additional loads. Then we've got sights and trigger control on the spinner. This short of a 380 barrel, I'm not expecting big results on the spinner, but it's an exercise. Then 5 shots from 7 yards for practical accuracy, followed by concluding thoughts. I'm going to try to get Ms. Tia out on this one because, man, this thing is so small. And I did notice, well, my hand fits on it nicely. Come on, there we go. It doesn't want to go back all the time. I do run some risk right here with flesh coming into contact with the slide. So this might not be something for larger handed people. Just keep that in mind, and I can hopefully remember that when I'm out at the range so I don't get racing stripes on my knuckle there. But interesting. Once again, this is a bought this, paid for it, regular consumer review. If you guys appreciate this, please thank the patrons again. If you'd like to see more things like this, free from industry influence, please consider joining our patrons. Other than that, we'll see you at the range. Thanks for watching. I remember talking through it, but somehow don't have the footage. So here I am after the fact, refilming the trigger talk. We've got a clear gun, and one of the things that I noticed on this, and see if the camera will help us out here, is the safety dingus is about the same width of the trigger. And that makes me wonder how effective of a safety dingus it really is. It seems to me if something was going to touch that, it was going to touch the trigger anyways. I mean, aside from pinching the trigger, I don't know how to make contact with the trigger without touching that. So that may be why there's a model with a manual safety. That might be something you want to consider, especially if you're not a super experienced or super safe shooter yet. Otherwise, does it really matter? Maybe, maybe not. If you've got a proper holster and you've got safe gun handling, maybe it doesn't matter at all. Alright, trigger talk. We've got spring-loaded take up to a wall, crisp break. Our reset is moderate and takes us in front of that wall again, so you still have a little more take up from the reset point to the wall, but it's not a bad trigger. It is a little bit on the heavier side, and that might be an issue for shooting tight groups with less disciplined shooters. Reason being, there is indeed a sweet spot ratio between trigger weight and pistol weight, because if you think about the amount of weight you're applying to move the trigger before it's going to want to move the gun, especially if it causes you to flex your hand at all, that can throw off shots and make accurate shooting a little more challenging if you don't have a lot of experience with it and are good at controlling a gun. But I mean, it's heavy. Let's see, compared to a Shield Plus. The Shield Plus has one of those kind of rolling brakes. The brake is cleaner on the Bodyguard. And let's go Equalizer, the hammer-fired gun that doesn't feel like one. Jeez, wasn't ready for that. Okay, the Equalizer's got a much better trigger. And just in case, and this is an early production CSX. I had lots of problems with this gun. Some people say the current ones are better. There's really no feel to it. Yeah, so I would put it as cleaner brake than the Shield Plus. Not as crisp or nice as the Equalizer, of course, because that's a hammer-fired gun. Hope this gives you an idea on trigger feel.